Well, hey guys, it's Darwin here with a full long-term review of what I'm calling the Ultra Lone Peak Killer, the Topo Pursuit. Alright, so admittedly, I have been an Ultra fanboy for years, hiking thousands of miles of long-distance trails in a ton of their shoes. From almost every single version of the Lone Peak to the Olympus and the Temp, I've used a lot of Ultra shoes, but about 6 months ago, I started looking for something new, something different to try on a bunch of my hikes, mainly because of Ultra's what seems like non-stop durability issues. They just don't last like they used to when I first started wearing them. And for years, I've gotten a ton of recommendations into trying Topos, mainly because of their wide toe box, just like Ultras. And it wasn't until recently when Topo put out their zero drop shoe, the Pursuit, that I finally decided to give them a try. So over the last 6 months, I have been putting these things through absolute hell. Hiking a big long section of the PCT in Washington in the Cascades, taking them to Nepal and doing a 10-day trek through the Himalayas up to Gokyo Lakes and Everest Base Camp, getting back into trail running and putting a lot of miles on these on my local trails, and even doing some climbing trips where I was using this shoe for a ton of steep rock scrambling. I feel like I've got enough miles and usage out of these to give my final thoughts and say if I really do think these are the Ultra killers. So, per usual, Topo did not pay me for this review. They didn't ask me to review their shoes, and I bought 2 pairs of these at full price. And before we get into what I like and what I don't like, let's go over the specs. The Pursuit is a zero drop trail runner with an extra wide toe box, just like the Ultras. It has a 28mm stack height and features what Topo calls their zip foam midsole. The outsole features a super grippy and well-lugged Vibram Mega Grip rubber. It has no rock plate in it, and it is Trail Gator compatible with their own proprietary gaiters. I wear a size 12 in men's, and on my scale, these bad boys come out to 11.5 ounces a piece. All right, so starting off, what do I like about the Pursuit? What are the pros for me? First off is going to be that zip foam midsole. Out of all the trail shoes that I've used over the last handful of years, this has definitely been the most comfortable and most durable midsole that I've ever had in a shoe. After a couple hundred miles on a trail runner, that foam starts to break down. It starts to kind of squish and what I call pancaking out, to where, you know, it's just getting a little bit thinner, and every time that you strike the ground, especially like a rock, a hard surface, you can start to feel the ground more and more. As you can see, after all of the miles that I've put on these and all the crap that I've hiked on, the foam is still in really great shape. They're nice and responsive, they have a good amount of cush to them, and they've still held up great. As you can see, they just haven't really squished out. And speaking of the foam and that midsole, it is a 28mm stack height, which for me is kind of the perfect amount of cush. My old favorite shoe that I've ever used was the Ultra Temp 1.5, and it had a 29mm stack height. So for me, that is like the absolute perfect amount of cushion, whether I am hiking with a pack on, having that extra weight, or I'm trail running. So these having a 28mm stack height is perfect. It's not too squishy, it's not too clunky, but it's just enough to where I'm not feeling what I am striking on the ground, whether it be rock or root or anything else. The other thing that I really love about this shoe is the grip. Out of all of the Vibram grip, the Vibram outsoles that I've had, this one has definitely been the grippiest. Whether it's on wet rock, loose sandstone rock, I was hiking on a bunch of glaciers over in Nepal, this stuck to everything super, super well. So I really, really, really dig the Vibram grip. Now I've had tons of different trail runners that have had Vibram Mega Grip on them, but I think it's a combination of that and then the lug pattern that Topo decided to put on this shoe. And then the other thing, really the main thing that I love about the Pursuit is its durability. Out of all the things that I've put this shoe through, out of all the miles that I've hiked on it, out of all the different environments, out of rock scrambling and running and just everything, this shoe still looks great. It has held up way better than any Altra shoe that I've ever had at this point of its life. There's no delamination, the foam hasn't squished out, there's no holes in the mesh. The shoe looks great. It's a little dirty, but aside from that, it's held up great. There are really only 2 spots in the shoe that wore out. First off, the lugs have definitely worn down a little bit just after all the miles that I put on them, but still have a ton of life left in them. And on one of the shoes, this foam right here, this fabric has kind of ripped open in a few spots, mainly because I was doing a bunch of rock scrambling over in Nepal, and I think that I just rubbed that on a bunch of rocks and broke it down. But aside from that, and the lugs being a little smaller than they were when I first got them, these shoes still have a ton of life left in them, and I can say that this shoe has kind of made me realize how long a trail runner should last. I was lucky if I was getting 300 miles out of a pair of Lone Peaks over the past handful of years. This has well surpassed that and still looks and performs great. So that's what I like about the shoe. What do I not like about the shoe? What are some of my dislikes? Well, I would say the kind of the biggest one that I don't like about the shoe or that I've had problems with is the insoles, and not their insoles, my insoles. Because of how they did their footbed, my custom insoles don't really fit in there quite right. And when I first get a pair of these and I put my insoles in, it's pretty uncomfortable for the first couple of days. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the shape that they went with, the depth that they went with, but my custom insoles don't quite fit in here right. I have to do a lot of trimming and a lot of adjusting, and eventually they do wear in, but right out of the box, they're a little funky. That being said, the insoles that they do include with these shoes are pretty damn comfortable. I used the stock insoles for the first week, and it's probably one of the cushiest, nicest insoles I've had in a shoe. So if you're a person that uses the stock insoles in a shoe, that's not gonna be a problem for you. But if you're someone that's like me and uses a custom insole, know that there's a little bit of like a break-in period. The other thing that I am not a big fan of is something that I hate when any shoe company does, and that is the whole proprietary Gator system. So as you can see, the front has the little bitty ring on it where you can hook a Gator into, but the back has this kind of weird little rubber bumper plate that has these little hook spots that only work with Topo's proprietary Gators. I hate when companies do this. Shoe companies, stop doing this. I get that you want to make more money. I get that you want people to buy your Gator and not use their own, but if I wanted to use my favorite Gators right now, the Dirty Girl Gators, now I haven't used these for years, but if I wanted to use them, I couldn't even glue a piece of Velcro on the back because there really isn't enough room for it. This is a bit of a bummer if I did want to use some Gators and I had to use theirs. And then the last thing I guess I can say about the shoe that I don't really like is the price. I just bought another pair of these and they retail for $140, which is pretty damn steep for a pair of shoes. They're probably the most expensive trail runners that I've ever bought. That being said, they do last a long time. You can see the durability is phenomenal. So I guess you get what you pay for. I feel like, I can get, by the time I go through one pair of these shoes, I would have already used 2 pairs of Lone Peaks. So it's something to consider if you're thinking about investing in a pair of these shoes, as they do have a pricey price tag. So overall, what are my final thoughts on the Topo Pursuit? Is it the ultra killer? For me, yeah, I think that this is a perfect replacement for the Ultra Lone Peak and the Temp. Right now, if I was gonna go out and do another thru hike of say the PCT or the CDT, this would be the shoe that I would reach for, mainly because of the durability. I know that these are gonna last, I know that they're gonna hold up, and I know that they're gonna be comfortable and not squish out for quite some time. So to me, yeah, this is definitely the Ultra killer, and I will probably never buy another pair of Ultra shoes. Ultra, step your game up. All right, so hopefully if you've been thinking about making the switch or finding something different from Ultra, or you've been thinking about trying a pair of Topos, the Pursuits in particular, hopefully this review gave you a little bit of an insight from my experience with the shoe, what I've liked and what I haven't liked. Speaking of that, have you tried Topos? Have they become the Ultra killer for you? Or what other shoe have you been hiking in? What has been working? Leave me something down below and let me know your thoughts. Guys, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're taking care of each other. I love you, and as always, thanks for watching.